Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 4 for Luca. And today I am joined with the beautiful Kerry Slone. She is an American patriot, the president of We the Female. And I cannot tell you how happy I am to have her with me. We've been following each other for a while. Kerry, we are at a place right now in this country where we're in trouble, and all of us patriots just really have to stick together. We have to make sure that we are literally standing side by side, arm in arm, and fighting this because when I'm talking to people, we have 10 months, Kerry, we have 10 months to save this country. We have to take it back to we the people. That's what Luke is about. It's about we the people. We have to take it back to our conservative values, what our Constitution was founded on. And that's we the people. That's what that Constitution states. And so for a long time, we have not been in charge. We have not been holding this government accountable. And it shows because now we can see just how huge they are, how powerful they've become, and just how corrupt they really are. But at the end of the day, I believe that it's all thanks to President Trump. I really don't believe that we would be here if it wasn't for that. So, and we have some people here joining us. So, but Kerry, I want you to tell us a little bit about who you are, and your story is fascinating. And so just kind of let our audience know all about you.
Well, first, Melinda, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And hello to everybody that's joining us live and that will be seeing this later. I ended up going viral a few years ago, almost 6 years ago now, talking about a gun control law in Washington State that was quite oppressive. And of course, they have since even gone far past what they did back then, which is crazy to me. But there was a lot involved with the law. But in short, the law in their minds was to keep guns out of the hands of people who were having mental health crises or whatever. It was kind of a gateway to a red flag law.
Yeah.
And in essence, there was lots of components to it, but what threw me into this fight was the fact that when you sign a 4473 to purchase a gun, so for those people, obviously I doubt that's your audience, but for the people who may come across this and don't know, there is in fact a background check system in place to purchase a firearm. It is through the FBI. It is a federal law to purchase handguns. And in Washington State, when you purchase a handgun, it is now a waiver of your medical record, and they can look at your medical record and deny you the purchase of a handgun. Well, I am a domestic violence survivor, and I am fiercely pro-2. I am actually an absolutionist with an extremely controversial view of from the conservative side. I have an extremely controversial view of my absolutionist stance on the Second Amendment. That being said, that law would have impacted my ability to potentially to purchase a gun because I did what I was supposed to do, and I went through therapy and had PTSD on my medical record. And I spoke out about it. My friends were mortified, because they knew that my abuser was stalking me at the time and such. And I said, well, y'all did this. Y'all did. Well, we read the bill. No, you didn't, because of all of the language that was in the bill, because we know that those are hard to read.
They're like 1,000 pages long.
And it's by design. It's on purpose.
And they give you like 24 hours to read them and pass them.
Yeah, and it's even worse for us when they drop it down to us for voters, because this was a voted on initiative. It was an initiative. So they I thought my cat was opening my door. I've got 4 cats, and one of them is kind of a tank. He's known for opening doors. Anyway, sorry about that. I was like, is it a ghost or the cat? Is it a ghost or the cat? It was actually my husband. Making sure that everything was running smooth. Or as I say, the IT department when I'm doing lives. So I told them, I said, you didn't read this bill. And they argued with me. And I said, if you did, you would have read it, because it was literally the only thing in the bill that was written in plain English and for people to be able to read.
Yeah.
So that catapulted me into this. But what I began to realize, and to your point about taking back the country, is I'm definitely conservative for sure. I'm not politically affiliated in any way. I would have said 6 years ago, you would have probably considered me more on the liberal side, and not because I was necessarily liberal, but it's because the Democrats and the liberals keep pushing the goalpost so far that it's now shifted me to looking like I'm more to the conservative side. But one of the biggest things that is frustrating, and living in Washington State and now living in Georgia, I can definitely see some of these differences, is that Republicans are terrible at the long game. Republicans and conservatives are terrible at the long game. They've been terrible at the long game for decades. And the conservatives the liberals and Democrats have most definitely not been. They've been actually controlling the long game.
Oh, they know how to play well, Kerry.
They do know how to play well, and the conservatives, Republicans don't. And part of that comes in with the fact that Republicans in particular are more obsessed with the federal government and controlling the federal government than they are their state and community leadership, which is not only where the change can legitimately be shifted, where your vote can have more of an impact, but it's also where you can stop a lot of this nonsense before it gets started to begin with. But it's easier for a lot of people to sit back and complain about it after it's done than become proactive. I was one of those people. I get it, right? I was guilty of that too. And so it's frustrating to watch this. And a friend of mine, he said it best, and he said, if people, just in general, but definitely I think that this applies to conservatives to a certain degree, because we just want to be left alone. We don't want to be bothered, but that's kind of biting us in the rear. And that is, he says, if the pizza's being delivered, your internet is on, and you have beer in the fridge, you're not going to do crap.
Yeah.
And
it is so true. And it's so funny that you say that, because Luca, that is the epitome of who we are. We are conservatives. We care about our Constitution. We care about God. We love God.
Wait a minute. You mean Latinas are conservatives? No.
We are conservative. But the thing is, yes, we are working in the communities, because you just said it perfectly, Kerry. It is about, and this is what our teams do. This is what Luca is about. It is about taking it back to the community. It is about we the people. It is about understanding what it looks like on a local level for the people to be in control, right? To ensure that government is working for us, and that is through policy. Of course, and it's through the people that we're voting in. So are we voting in God-fearing, constitutionalist, grassroots Americans like you and I, right? Just like you and I, that understand conservatism, understand what it means to hold what freedom is about. The American dream. I'm old enough to remember when the American dream was alive. Well, I've got 5 grandbabies, so yes, I am old enough to remember the American dream. And I can look back and see the decline of our country. And sadly, this generation, those that have literally been indoctrinated, we can also see the indoctrination that America's bad, that we are racist, white people are racist. The divide is real. And when you said that the Republican Party, we as an organization, we have never held quiet about the issues on both sides. Obviously, the Republican Party holds a little bit more of the values that mean most to us, but there is some work to be done that needs to happen. But the local level is huge. That is where we're going to make a big difference. So I'm really glad that you brought that up.
Well, thanks. And just forgive me, because there's no way that I'm not going to sound like that person when I say this, but I have a lot of Latino family members. So, I'm totally down with the Latino, right? I don't mean for it to come out that way, but they're fairly conservative. a lot of them are fairly conservative leaning. And one of them in particular, I thought he was going to pee on the floor like a puppy when Trump was elected in 2016, because his father tried to immigrate here twice and was deported twice, and he had a master's degree. Like everybody in his family is, the minimum education in his family is a master's degree, and he lives in Southern California. So he obviously, my family, they see the exploitation of the Latino community.
Yes.
And what that looks like. And I think that the conservatives Republican Party has really done themselves a disservice with, and continue to do so with the old white people kind of, the boomer thing, because even though we're seeing phenomenal movement, particularly in the Latino community, the Legit movement and all of these type of things, I feel like, looking at this objectively as somebody who sits in the middle, I'm not even affiliated as a libertarian, because if libertarians could stop arguing over who's more libertarian on the internet, they could probably get somewhere. And then I'd be more supportive. But I do tend to have those types of philosophical leanings.
Yeah.
And so I can look at this objectively. And the one thing that liberals have done, the Democrats have done, has absolutely been more successful at seizing the minority narrative. Yes. And the conservatives aren't doing it, in my opinion, they're not doing it the right way. And of course, this is just coming from a middle-aged white woman, and
we were also raised to believe, because the majority of us in minorities, we grew up in poverty. That's the truth. That's just the God honest truth, that the Democrats were for the poor. This was something that was embedded in us, and that the Republicans just care about the rich. So we knew that, in order to be taken care of or protected, that we needed to vote Democrat. But we learned, and we've learned very quickly, that is not true. They're especially today, they go against everything that we believe in. And so, but the Latinos in this country, we are becoming the majority. We really are. Yeah. We just became the majority in Texas. We're number one where I'm from, in New Mexico. Our state is the number one state for the highest populace of the Hispanic community.
It's also the most exploited of the Latinos and the Native Americans.
And so we want to remove ourselves from, and hoping that we could lead the way and remove the identity politics the way it is today, because it just divides us, and just become Americans. Just love each other as freedom-loving Americans. But Kerry, and so I know what you do is such, I'm so impressed, and it is my heartstrings. My mom, we grew up, and there was, of a domestic abuse all over. So, the fact that you have really committed yourself to helping women in these situations, and I know that you try to rehabilitate them, and that the firearms is huge in protecting our 2A. Where I'm from in New Mexico, this governor is doubling down on trying to remove the 2A. So our people are really fighting hard over there. But tell our audience a little bit more about, not being scared, because I know I have two sisters that are terrified to carry guns. Thank goodness all three of my grown conservative daughters, they all love to shoot guns, and they aren't scared of them. And so that makes me happy. But we really need to encourage a lot of women, and there's even men out there that deal with domestic violence, and it's true. So, share that a little bit more, and how they can, the importance of it.
So it's women, even on the conservative side, and I see this a lot, they tend to be intimidated by guns, and there's definitely a cultural component to that. And that is one thing where a lot of conservatives are also guilty, is that they embrace this Second Amendment mindset, but don't understand that women are going to look at gun ownership differently than a man, and the reasons that they need it. At the end of the day, is it shall not be infringed? Absolutely. Without a doubt. Like I said, I hold an incredibly controversial view of 2A absolutionist mindset as a domestic violence survivor in particular, where I believe violent felons should be able to have their rights restored, because the cognitive dissonance that's there, well, they shouldn't have their rights restored, but aren't you the same people that argue that they're going to get the gun anyway, whether it's legal or not? So you're really only hurting those that are truly reformed, or putting them in a position What if they have to defend themselves with a gun and they're legally not allowed to have one? Right now, you've created the revivistism that you say that they should be denied for. So because at the end of the day, it is not my responsibility, your responsibility, or anybody else's responsibility to decide who's reformed and who isn't,
Right.
or who should own a gun and who shouldn't. It is our responsibility to be better trained and prepared than those that want to do us harm, period. That being said, when you're dealing with abuse victims, when you're dealing with women who have had negative experiences with guns, we see this a lot. I work with not only domestic violence victims, I work a lot with elderly ladies who tend to, which blows my mind, how many don't vote. I could go on that's a whole other episode where I could go on about some of the stuff. That's my friend Amber, who is a phenomenal. She's personal security.
Nice.
Yeah, and bodyguard.
I love your comment, Amber.
Yeah, she's amazing. So, and she works with like an all-women crew, by the way. And women make some of the best security. I'm totally digressing. Women make some of the best security guards because we're underestimated. People think we're not. So women actually do really, really well in that field if they're given the lane. And a lot of times they aren't because they're just dumb broads. So, and that is well, it's true. And there's some problems in the conservative more pro 2A world with that than they care to admit.
Yeah.
Which is why I tend to take a lot of heat in that world because I'm not afraid to call it out. Along with the mindset of, well, we should just give them a gun. Yeah, well, first and foremost, it's not that simple. Sometimes, and this is the core of what We the Female does, is sometimes we have to help women understand that their lives are worth defending before we can teach them how to defend it. And I understand, yes, triggers, I have them. I have PTSD. I get that they are our responsibility, but particularly for a domestic abuse survivor who's just coming out of her situation and she's going through all of this process, we need to be a little bit more sensitive to the fact that she's not able, he is not able to recognize those triggers right away. And so we need to be a little bit more delicate when we're first addressing domestic violence victims, women that have bad experiences with guns. Like I said, I work with that a lot as well. And that is she's pro 2A, but she doesn't want to have anything to do with guns. And oftentimes they don't realize that it's because, grandpa or their uncle handed them, a 30-30 when they were 5 years old to let them shoot it and knocks them on their bums. And now they don't know, that's what they remember is that this gun is going to knock them to the ground. And so they're pro 2A, but they don't want to have anything to do with it. Right. So the whole core of We the Female is to arm the women with education, confidence, and self-defense. Because when they have the education and the knowledge, they can have the confidence. Then we can help them work on the self-defense. So we call it the holistic approach to self-defense because it's not one component, and it's not all about the gun. Like Amber had just said with what you'd put up there, get called being paranoid. We actually call it being pre-paranoid in our classes because ladies, you are too pretty for prison. Yeah. And pulling the trigger is not always the answer. If you can de-escalate and get out of a situation, get out of the situation. Yeah. And then you go home to your babies, and you're not in jail. Your wallet certainly, legally, especially in certain states, obviously, there's definitely West Coast states, Colorado, New England area, New York. Those areas are certainly not going to be as friendly to you if you need to use lethal force. So
no, I lived in Connecticut for 5 years, so I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm in Texas now, and
y'all better watch down there. You're gonna flip.
We're fighting over here.
No, I know. I'm glad you are, and I'm glad to see more Latinos fighting down there because
we are. We really are.
Ay, Dios mío.
Yes, ay, Dios mío. And we just had a meeting this past weekend with the RNHA, which is the Republican National Hispanic Assembly. And our two organizations are about to collaborate hardcore. And we're, because we've got 10 months and it's going to take both of us to really get out there and The Latinos are going to lead the way. That's the truth.
Yeah.
We are going to get this country out of the mess that it's in, but we want to bring every American with us. We're
Right.
locking arms with everybody because again, it's about us. It's about the people. It's about us making sure that we do this right. And we have to teach this next generation of kids how to do that, because we can never allow this to happen again, ever. And so, but going back to what you said, like it reminds me of my two sisters who are really terrified of guns. Like even if I go somewhere with them and I have my 9 on me, I did my whole rally in New Mexico with 3,000 people with my 9 on my side because there was Antifa making eye contact with them. Like, it's here.
Oh, they're pussies. If you look at them, they'll look away and run.
You've got a skateboard. I've got my 9. So
Right,
we're just making sure. But we have to look at things too, Kerry. And the God honest truth is that we have wide open borders with 7 million people now. And it's not just Latinos. It's not just South America. It's 170 different countries that
Africans are coming in, military aged Arab Muslims are coming in. Yeah.
They're coming in from everywhere. So this is also, for me, as a woman and as an American, we don't know, and we have to prepare ourselves and be in denial what the possibilities are. So, people have to really wake up, and especially women, because we are going to be the first, right? They're going to come after us more than they will our men.
Yeah, I posted a video actually, and it's the video's in South Africa, but they're illegal immigrants going into South Africa, and they're just talking so nonchalantly about how they rape women, and it's an incredibly disturbing video, but that is happening here, but it's going to progress. If you look at Europe, that trend, my husband worked in counterterrorism for years in the military, 24 years. And I remember in 2015, him saying Sweden is the rape capital of Europe. And people laughed at me. We knew it then. And we didn't discuss it. But now when you step back and you look at it, you realize that's because this end game for the Democrats have been in place. And to a certain degree, if we're being really, really honest and accountable, there are Republicans on board with that as well, because it allows that control shift. But the one thing I want to touch back on is women. And I don't know if you know this about me. I'm a huge study of history, particularly American history. I'm married to a historian. My husband is Native American. He's
love it.
Half Native. He's half Native, so he's actually more Native than a lot of, And he studied U.S. history, Latin American history. He speaks fluent Spanish, but I'm learning it. Y'all's verbs are making me crazy. Like, I'm like, it's not an easy language to learn. So, but the one thing that and I'm a big fan of Revolutionary War women's history, because so much of that wasn't documented to begin with, and then it's just not talked about.
Right.
But the one thing that women need to understand and start using actively is the fact that we are the force that makes everything happen. Women have literally been the rise and fall of empires for millennia. Why they think they need to lower themselves to be equal to patriarchy is beyond me, because we run everything from behind. The Declaration of Independence would have never been written had Abigail Adams, in a much graceful manner, of course, but she essentially told John Adams, you better piss or get off the pot, because we're going to lose all this unless you do something. And that's how it actually happened. Yes, for those that will see this now and later, that is documented. I mean, like I said, it's not, she didn't say that, but she was such a force behind that. And when you piss the women off, forget it. Now, on that, as bad as you piss the women off, God help you if you piss off Latina women. I grew up in Southern California. These women are nuts. Like, they're like, we're going in, right?
Those big old hoops, they come off, hair goes up.
And it's time. So I love what you do. I love to see the Latino community, talking to a woman. So see, I told you I'm studying. uh, become more mobilized and active, but especially the women. Like I love Denise Aguilar in California, and especially because she absolutely pisses them off.
Oh, yes. I
If you don't know
follow
what I'm
her.
talking about,
She's amazing. I
she
follow her.
is. She started Freedom Angels, for those that don't know, and she was a former gangbanger. And, I grew up in the late 80s, mid to late 80s in Southern California. Latino gang culture was big. We all we all were contributors to the depletion of the ozone with our hairspray.
Maybe the Aquanet. Are you talking about the Aquanet?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it was crazy. So, but they, again, if they're not particularly minorities, but Latinos, if they're not, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to be speaking for you, but it seems that through my family and people I know in conversations that if they didn't buy into the full Democrat, mindset thinking, they don't tend to trust the government. So they don't tend to either pull conservative, and the Black community tends to be similar.
Yeah.
And I think that the conservatives, the Republicans, excuse me, because they're different. You can be a conservative and not be a Republican, and you can be a liberal and not be Democrat. They've really missed the mark with trying to embrace that and understand that difference. As far as like women like your sisters, they are the women I love to teach. They're the women I'm good at teaching. They're my specialty. I was in the beauty industry for 30 years before I closed down my day spa. I was one of the top 5 most successful day spas in Washington State.
Wow.
I had an apprenticeship program. I literally taught women how to become estheticians and nail technicians. I created it didn't exist, so I created my program. So I'm very much about helping women empower themselves. I always have been. But what I feel one of the unique aspects that I bring in when I'm training with firearms is I bring 30 years of sitting at that manicuring table and behind that facial bed to my classroom. And when I say that I was in the beauty industry, what I really mean, and women will understand this, I was in the business of women. I know how they think. I know how to get to the core of what the problems are. I know how to figure out what those traumas are that may be inhibiting them or make them afraid of guns. I understand all of that. And if we can address those fears at their core and help women understand this isn't about that redneck BS shall not be in front of crap. This is about you and your babies. And being able to protect your babies.
Protecting them, yes.
Absolutely. And I have to say that about the babies, because a lot of times, particularly with some of we call them Granny Oakleys, our older ladies that take our classes, our widows, or women that are coming to class because now they have to become their husband's protector because he's ill or whichever. I get a lot of those students. And that is oftentimes women, what do? We sacrifice for our families. Right. We do a lot of sacrificing for our families and taking care of them, particularly conservatives, even some liberals that haven't gone completely off the rail. They tend to still have some of that mindset. So sometimes helping them, understand that, okay, if you're not going to do it for yourself, you need to protect your babies. And that's the switch, right? Oh, we're not playing with the babies, or your babies. Like, I'll protect your babies like they're mine. Women tend to, that is those colloquialisms that women, mama bears and those things, they exist for a reason. And it's unfortunate that the gun industry / community, whatever that means, really hasn't wrapped their brains around approaching women that way.
Right.
And another thing I'd like to add to that too is I love that to see, and I don't know, you follow me for a while, so and some other people that are watching, I know Amber, she's still here, and that is, I've worked for the last few years very actively in the Black community, and seeing the rise of the Black gun ownership is awesome. And boy, they hate that. The gun control supporters, they don't like seeing that.
No.
And let's be really honest. It's because those white liberal women don't want Black people owning guns. You know who else they don't want owning guns? You.
Nope. They don't.
They don't want Latinos owning guns. They don't want anybody that they continue to use to oppress for their agenda to be able to defend themselves against them. So one of the things I would love to be doing, focusing moving forward to 2024. So I'm glad you brought me on in January for this. Is I really want to be working more actively in the Latino community, especially with women, to get them armed. and then to get them vocal. Because once you piss off a Latino, you ain't got it, especially the women, you ain't got to tell them.
We're done.
They're done. I just have to get in. I have to piss them off, right? Let me get in and piss them off by explaining how these laws are impacting their lives every day. Then I'll just send them to you, and then you can run with them.
There you go. Well, so that you know, Kerry, we do have a chapter in Washington. Mandy, our state executive director, she is phenomenal out there. Absolutely. I think, she's gathering the Latino community. And if you guys want to do an event where she brings you in so that you guys can do that, I think it's fantastic.
I would love to. Feel free to give her my number. I've just finished my training schedule up there. I teach on the peninsula because I'm blessed to have a woman who's donated private property for me to bring women to teach. And it's wonderful because, they don't have to worry about dudes staring down there, and either like oogling them or, wanting to mansplain to them. It's I
was going to say, or get their opinion because they're probably doing something wrong.
The worst.
I know. So, well, we are about end of time, but Kerry, tell our audience how they can find you and any important information and getting.
We're almost out of time, girl. We can sit and talk for another hour.
I know. Our show's at 30 minutes.
You can find me on.
We'll have to bring you back on.
Yeah, I would love it. And let's get something coordinated even in Texas. Let's get these women trained. You can find me on Instagram at @we_the_female_official. I'm also Stilettos and Shotguns 3.0. That's a little spicier. It's also my third account there, which is because it's spicy.
My third.
I'm on Facebook, Stilettos and Shotguns, We the Female. And you can also find me on X at @TheReal_SNS.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kerry. We're definitely bringing you back on. And I've got your number. We'll be in touch because Texas needs women like you out here. So,
let's arm these Latina women with education, confidence, and self-defense.
Amber's in Texas. Amber, we have got to touch base, Amber. I would love to meet you. I'm in West Texas. So if you've got her number, get a hold of me. I would love to meet with her.
My family's from Midland, Odessa.
Oh, that's where my sisters live. So
I'll visit family while I'm there.
Yes, Kerry. I'll get in touch with you, Amber. Well, God bless you. And again, thank you for joining us. And everybody, you guys, hit the notify button, subscribe, share this video. We are also on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We're on X. We're on Facebook. Stay up to date with everything. We've got so much more coming on because you guys, we got a country to save. It's we the people. And with amazing women like Kerry, we'll be on our way on the conservative side. God bless you guys. Thanks, Kerry. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.